Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. This is the Finch Show. I am James Finch. Sometimes you get into these situations where nothing goes right, and I just experienced that in a heavy way. My guest on this episode of the podcast is Captain Britt. She's a cosplayer, and more importantly, she's just an amazing human being. We did this podcast. We sat down, we recorded it, and then like midway through, I started having all kinds of problems with my recording program. And after we were done with the podcast, realized none of it saved, none of it. So it was absolutely heartbreaking. It was embarrassing. I said, or like, I am so sorry. Is there another time that we could do this again? Because I feel terrible that this great conversation we had is just now like lost to the nether. And she was so awesome. She said, I'm not doing anything right now. Let's do it. So we literally just re-recorded the podcast, like trying to remember everything we had said previously. I think we did a pretty good job, all things considered. It got extremely late running into the night us doing it, but we got it done. It was great. She goes by Captain Britt. Her name's Brittany. You could follow her on Instagram. She does have a Facebook for, doing the public cosplay stuff. And she's great. This is one of my favorite podcasts I've ever done. I'm going to stop talking and just get into it, ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, here's Britt. This is Brittany's here. We're like having this thing right now where like we actually like recorded the podcast,
the whole
thing, and then Zoom went like belly up on my PC and it did not save any of it. So thanks to the determination that can only come from a captain, we have the fortitude to attempt to we're just gonna dry run the thing again and just be like, okay, both of us are going to attempt to be as interesting as we were the first time for the recorded version that we already did that now exists in an alternate dimension somewhere
in a multiverse unknown to us,
but not in our universe. So right off the bat, this is I have to ask, so what was it, Monday you did the Multiverse of Madness premiere? What was that even like?
It was overwhelming to say the least, but in the best possible way. There's just always a lot going on. You see a bunch of familiar faces, and it's a lot of anticipation too, because it's a lot of waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. See, we're just too nice.
yeah, that's it. And we're both still trying to remember what we said last time.
Right, exactly. I know I had a long-winded answer that first time. Yeah. Like I said, to reiterate, overwhelming in the best way possible. The anticipation is fun, the butterflies in your stomach. And it's also fun because I get to see familiar faces from previous cons, previous premieres, and people who are in the charity group that I'm a part of. So it's always really cool to anticipate seeing your friends and getting to make like new core memories with them.
Mm-hmm. What does I imagine it being like a big, huge Marvel event like that? Like, what is that like process even like in terms of like showing up there or how you get in, like all that kind of stuff?
It is. It's funny because we have to hang out right on Hollywood Boulevard. So there's always people walking around with their phones out, and half the time they're walking by you doing this because they're just like, what's going on? Obviously they know because they've got the big cutout for it. And then I noticed that they had a small open portion where like they were doing the interviews where half of the wall wasn't up so that people on the street can see, which I thought that was really cool. Because I know some of the actors and actresses had walked by and said hello to the people that weren't on the red carpet, and then they walked on and did their interview thing.
Mm-hmm. That's what is like, how long of a process is that for like all the actors? I mean, like the actors, do they go through one at a time, or?
Yeah, so it's again overwhelming, and there's a lot of stuff going on at once. So we wait in line outside, we go through the COVID check, the safety protocols, wear our masks. Once we have the go ahead that our rapid test was clear and we have no COVID, we get a special wristband that allows us to kind of move on to the next small area. There we pick up our lanyards with like our guest pass on it, and then they have people escort you to the fan area. And once you're there, we waited around 2 hours, I want to say, before anybody started showing up. It was fun because you just get to hang out with your pals, take pictures, and all that fun stuff. The time frame in between when the actors walk by, it's usually like an hour. It seems like I don't really keep time, but it's usually I think a solid hour. And it's just dependent on the actor. A lot of the times they're getting pulled to take, their professional photo right in front of the big cutout. So sometimes they go straight to that and they'll walk back, or sometimes they'll walk from the end where they enter. And that sounded a little weird. They'll walk, for me, it was the end, but it's really the entrance. It's another side from where we walked in. They'll walk up and greet everybody and take selfies or sign things, and then they'll take their professional photo. It really just depends on the actor or their handlers and which way they're going to go.
Mm-hmm. Everybody pretty cool?
Yeah, everybody's actually very, very nice. I was lucky enough to meet Elizabeth Olsen, Sam Raimi, Patton Oswalt came by really quick, took a selfie. Benedict Wong came through. Let's see who else came through. I was close to meeting Sochi. She kind of had to get pulled into an interview, which is fine. I had the pleasure of meeting her at Moon Knight, which was great. There was a lot of other random people there. I saw the singer Omarion. He took a selfie with my group. That was great. Tiffany Haddish. That was very cool. So when it's kind of actors or artists that aren't involved in the movie, obviously, sometimes they just kind of walk past, because you have to walk past us to get to the professional press area where they're going to take, photos and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But a lot of them, they're very kind, and they'll stop, say, oh, excuse me, Tiffany, or, or if they see you and you lock eyes, you can say, oh, do you mind taking a photo? And more often than not, they will take a photo with you.
Mm-hmm. Is Patton Oswalt in the movie, or is his nerd crud just so good that he can just show up to those things?
Well, I don't know. Would it be a spoiler if I said yes?
I think it would be, yeah, because then my mind would really like, Patton Oswalt's in this. Greatest MC.
Or would it not be a spoiler if I said no?
Yeah,
so I don't know.
That's a tough one.
I'll keep it locked for now.
So you guys, then you're all in after that. After like everybody goes through and does the meet and greet and the selfies and the autographs. You're all in the same theater, right? Like to watch the movie.
Yes. So this go around, excuse me, we were all in the Dolby Theater together, which was really cool. I had the honor of being invited to Eternals by one of my friends, Brandon. And for Eternals, it was separate. I'm not sure if because there was such an amount of people that worked on the movie, a lot of people got invited, but we were separate for that one. So mainly the actors and I guess the people who were a little more close to the movie were put into the El Capitan. And we were put into the Dolby, but this go around, we were all together, and they had all the actors from Multiverse of Madness come on stage. They introduced them. Everybody clapped and cheered. I sat in very close to the screen. So fair warning for anybody going to watch the movie, or if you've already have seen it by the time the podcast comes out, you don't want to sit that close to the screen. We get assigned our seats, so we don't have the option to choose. I'm not a person who gets vertigo at all. I definitely did get a little bit during the movie because we were so close. Mm-hmm. But back to the actors. We kind of had the center orchestra area, and right behind that, I saw Haley Atwell sitting back there, Sochi, a lot of other actors and actresses. So we were all in the same area. Yes, that
is so cool. How was the movie, without giving away any spoilers?
It was great. It definitely blew my mind. Sam definitely took a hold of the horror aspect. There were a few very creepy moments that had me quite literally pushed myself back into the chair because I was like, oh goodness, this is uncomfortable. I did mention on my stories on Instagram, and I think you'd seen Emily's stories, and another one of my pals had mentioned it. Fair warning for parents. It does get a little spooky. There are jump scares. I'm very surprised with what Marvel has given us, and it's new, and it's just I would definitely watch it first before taking little kids. It's not in a bad way. It's just they could get frightened at the movie. But overall, I enjoyed it. Everybody's going to have, their little nitpicks of what they did like and what they didn't like, but that's pretty much with every movie. And I trust Marvel to give us good content and produce good stories. So I liked it very much. It was great. I can't wait to see it again.
Yeah, and it was definitely from what you had posted on Instagram. My wife and I had to sort of change our plans because the original plan was like, of course, we want to go see it. Like you can't wait. Like it's a big MCU movie, especially one that's kind of shrouded a little bit. Like you want to see it before too many spoilers filter their way through. We were just in this position, like anybody who would normally watch the kids while we do into that are tied up this weekend. So originally we just thought, you know what? It's a Marvel movie. It'll be fine. We'll take the kids. As some of the listeners know, my youngest is 6 years old. We thought, it's a Marvel movie. It'll be okay. After what you posted and what other people posted, we decided to change our plans.
Good idea. Solid idea.
Especially since, my 6-year-old, who's a great kid right now being that age, he's right now going through the like scared of the dark nightmare phase.
Then definitely a good idea to pre-watch the movie beforehand.
Yes.
I can guarantee that there will be some jump scares that could be frightening.
Right. I feel like that's the last thing we need to pour into his melon right now is like more stuff like that to keep him away. Yeah. So instead, my wife's just going to take a half day off work on Friday, and we're going to go see it before the kids get out of school. That way it's packed in. It's good. I don't have to worry about spoilers. And, my youngest can still sleep at night. So
there you go. It works out for everybody.
So when it comes to the cosplay aspect of it, obviously going by Captain Brittany, what was it about cosplay, I should say, that drew you into wanting to do that?
Honestly, I didn't really think it was a thing. Everybody likes to dress up for Halloween. It wasn't until I think like the last couple years cosplay has actually gotten quite big, and with the way social media evolves, it's a lot more known and I guess accepted now. It's like the cool thing to do, and you have a lot of influencers and even like famous people that dress up in cosplay and like on the cover of magazines. I think I had seen a while back the artist Megan Thee Stallion. She did an entire like My Hero Academia get up for she was Shoto for I think a magazine cover, and I was like, this is cool. But yeah, honestly, it was really just like the specific character of Steve Rogers that kind of pulled me in. And I was like, wow, cosplay is a thing, and like you can get these suits made and you can order them, and like it would be really cool to have one because I connect with the character so much, and that's kind of what pulled me in.
That's Captain America is such a great character, and it cracks me up the way, for some reason or another that I don't understand, people get upset when they feel Captain America gets political, like as if he had never been political before.
Right.
Never mind the fact the very first time we ever in this universe saw Captain America was on a cover of a comic in the 1940s where he's punching a Nazi.
Exactly.
Like if that's not an introduction right off the bat, like guess what, guys? This is the guy. But he's had a great evolution as a character. He's one of those characters I think, just like you, I absolutely love. Excuse me. The thing that is always mind-blowing to me, and I'm going to go off on a tangent here, I hope that's okay.
Totally fine.
Is that being somebody who's a former history major, specifically American history, is that we begin, July 4th, 1776, with the Declaration of Independence saying all men are created equal. All right. We've all heard that line 1,000 times. Now,
right.
Anybody knows, and you can't dispute it, that when the founding fathers said all men are created equal, what they really meant was white landowning males. That's
Right.
really what they meant.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. The beauty that I think of American history, the thing that I think is so great about it, is that if you begin at that point, we then go on this long journey of that really tiny scope slowly opening and blossoming to include more and more people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still going, and it's not perfect. It's a struggle, right, and it always will be. And the reason why I say all that is that's one of the reasons why I love the character of Captain America, because as a character in the comics, over the decades, he's grown along with that. Some of the stuff he said in the comics in the 70s today could almost be considered borderline conservative, right?
Yeah.
But today, he's now, people now get mad because they feel like he's, being too liberal, or, but that's a good thing to see that evolution of that's constantly growing, constantly evolving. And, but I always feel like, and this is, I think, what's really important about characters such as Captain America is the difference between being political in terms of the way you feel about things and having a political agenda. Like, you're never going to see Captain America say, if you love America, vote Republican, or if you love America, vote Democrat. You're never going to see him talk about like real specific line item things like military budgeting or Medicare for all. It's more just, this is how he feels about things. This is how he's going to approach this situation. It's going to be whatever is in the best interest of most people in his mind's eye. And that is just the way to go about it.
Right.
And therefore, I think that's just something that's absolutely wonderful to get behind. And I think it's part of the reason why the character has resonated with so many people for so long.
Mm-hmm. I think that kind of goes perfectly when you think about Captain America and the Winter Soldier, when he gives that speech at S.H.I.E.L.D. and he says, a lot of people have been saying some things about me that aren't true. And it's up to you to determine what decision you're going to make from this point on and who you're going to side with. He doesn't say, I'm Captain America, believe in me. Like, don't believe them. He says, I'm willing to sacrifice, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. And that's how he goes about saying, it's either you can pick a side. I'm not forcing you which side to pick, but this is where I stand. So you can either stand and get behind me or believe what you would like to believe and go that route. It's never a choose me because I'm Captain America.
Right.
It's choose what you think is right. And I'm giving you the tools and the information to be to have the knowledge that you need to know about this situation for you to make an informed decision.
And I think that's an incredibly important ideal. And I think, unfortunately, it gets lost a lot, right? Politics wise, we get so caught up in our sound bites. And, unfortunately, you get it. I hate saying this, but it's true. You get a lot of people on both sides who are waiting almost to be told how they should feel about something.
Right.
When in reality, I think that, the more you took time to understand the nuances of issues from different sides, you might feel very differently about it. And I love a lot of people that speech that Sam gave at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think a lot of people felt was maybe a little too ham-handed, maybe a little too preachy. I thought it was dead on. I was like,
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, here was Sam Wilson giving a Captain America speech, not that he was trying to be Captain America, but just showing why Steve Rogers chose him to take on the mantle, knowing him as well as he does.
Right. Because he knew he could have the same amount of impact, and he knew Sam was a good man, a good man to take up the mantle. And he obviously trusted him to do that. Right.
Yeah. For anybody out there who gets upset about Captain America being political, keep in mind, like, the guy, like I said, the guy on his very first issue was punching a Nazi. Okay.
Exactly.
And you also have to keep in mind that when this comic first started coming out, and the characters first introduced in the 40s, World War II was going on. It was prior to Pearl Harbor. The United States had not gotten involved in the war yet. There were a lot of German Americans in the United States, especially in New York, and the amount of hate mail that they used to get over having Captain America punching Hitler You know, I remember hearing a story about Jack Kirby one time got so angry, he rolled up his sleeves and went downstairs to fight these people who were protesting outside or in the lobby or something. So you can't come back now and be like, I like Captain America when he wasn't political. Like,
Right.
I don't
He
know.
always has been since day one.
It's his DNA, man. It's in his spine. And not, like I said, you know, not that he's trying to have an agenda or anything. I absolutely loved cosplay wise, you know, looking through your Instagram. And if anybody's out there listening to this and you're not following Captain Britt on Instagram, you're doing yourself a disservice. Like, go do it right now. But I love the variations that you took with the uniform.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm actually small part of the reason why I'm glad we're re-recording this. I think I forgot to bring up the first time we recorded this because you even did like the original costume with like the World War II helmet. That I see that in the forest.
Oh, and yeah, the Bucky rescue suit from the first movie.
Is that what it's called, the Bucky rescue suit?
Ooh, I totally slipped while trying to adjust on my hair. It's completely up to you if you'd like to leave it in. We're all human and not perfect.
Yeah. This has just been a night for that, so whatever.
Yeah, it has. That's totally fine. It's not a big deal. Yeah, that's what I know it. That's what I know it by, the Bucky rescue suit. I know the one where he's doing the USO tour, like that's the USO suit. And then, you know, he throws the leather jacket on and grabs one of the girls' USA helmets. So that's what I recognize it as. That's what the cosplay community informed me, because I was like, oh, I like that suit. And they're like, oh, it's referred to as the Bucky rescue suit because that's the suit he's wearing while he rescues Bucky. It does make sense. Yeah. And I loved throughout the course of the MCU, when you go back to that very first movie all the way through Endgame, this like really cool evolution that his costumes went through in every single. Of course, the Bucky rescue, as I know it's called. I mean, that was great. I mean, that was classic. I still can't get over the one that he had in the first Avengers. The bony suit. Yeah. What does it have an official name? What was it? So it's referred to as Boney for short, but it stands for Battle of New York. Oh, yeah, that makes way more sense. It could be misconstrued if it's not known that way, I guess. Yeah, it was. I appreciate what they were trying to do. It was a little goofy, and I love the fact that at Endgame they poked fun at it. You know, even kind of like, that suit did nothing for your ass, Steve. But the awesome thing about your IG and about your cosplay is that you did the stealth suit, which to me is still like my favorite Captain America costume of all time. It's one of the best suits for me too. It's definitely one of my favorite ones. I mean, I had commented earlier that let's show everybody we both have the same chair. Yes. I was glad in Endgame they kind of like, the problem that they have is that not all things from printed comic book page transfer over well to real life. Right. And in the comic for a long time, he had like the chainmail costume. And I even thought to myself, like long before the MCU, like there's no way you could do that in real life. Like it would just look right, like easy. With the scales and whatnot. Yeah, metallic scales. And yet what they did in Endgame is this costume, and that had like the definition of scales. Like on the arms and the chest. So it's like, okay, so you got the feel of that costume without having to, make it look like cheesy, metallic, shiny. That's actually the first suit I ever got. Cause it was, I want to say shortly after Endgame and right before, was it either, I think it was during the pandemic actually. So Endgame had already been out for quite a while. And, that was actually when I started thinking about cosplay. I had seen people online just like on the Explore page. And I'm like, oh, wow, people actually do this. And you can actually buy a suit and wear it around. Like, how cool would that be? And I absolutely fell in love with the Endgame suit because of like one of those reasons too. Like the scales looked so cool. He had them on like the shoulders here and then the chest part where the star was. And it's funny because watching Infinity War, the stars obviously ripped off, but like if you look really close on the inside, you can see the scales already there. So just seeing that suit in Endgame is kind of what made me like pushed me over the edge to say, I'm going to commit to buying this. And I received it. It was like 90 degrees. It was in August, and I put the suit on, and I went outside, and I had not such a good cell phone, so I tried taking like timed selfies, and I had a lot of fun in my backyard just posing and yeah. So yes, I agree with you. The way they managed to change from the comics and translate it into the MCU with the scales is amazing. And Ryan, the head of visual development, I've had the pleasure of meeting him. I believe 2 or 3 times. Once was at WonderCon, and I had him sign my Road to Endgame book, and he actually gave me like a little Captain America sketch in there. And I was telling, like, while he was doing that, I was telling him how much I enjoyed Spider-Man, and like he was my first real superhero that I got into, and he did a little Spider-Man sketch. It was a nice little profile. I have the book down here. It's really cool, and he's a really nice guy. Right across from him was Andy Park's booth. That's actually one of Andy Park's posters right there. For when Black Widow was supposed to come out, and then we all know it got pushed and pushed and pushed for months. But yeah, he actually signed it for me right there.
Oh, cool.
Very nice guy. Very, very nice guys in general. And it's just amazing the work that they do and the work that they've been doing all the way since, Iron Man came out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The, one of the things that I love about the MCU is exactly that. Like the way that, like, because you remember like when the original like X-Men movies came out, and the Fantastic Four, and there was always this like weird anger from the community over canon. Like, was everything fitting canon with the comics? With the MCU, it's interesting. They make phenomenal movies, and they don't really try to fit canon. Like, right. They're their own thing. I mean, yeah, they'll have some elements that they bring in. They know what elements made the stories great from the comics and incorporate those, and not visually to have to be this specific costume, this specific this. Because some of those just don't translate well. Like, I'm a humongous Wolverine fan. Like, I don't think you can do the comic accurate Wolverine costume in a movie. Like, it would just look really corny, right?
Probably not in the movie. I have seen some very cool Wolverine cosplayers that do some really amazing work. But I think maybe there's like a fine line to that, because I've always been partial to like the 80s version, or like the really old X-Men 97 like versions of the suits. And I think in the newer ones, like First Class, I think it kind of worked because they went with like that time frame of like the 80s and the 90s. So I think it kind of works in that aspect. But it's like you said, it's not going to translate well for everything.
Right.
And just the way the MCU suits are designed. Did I say that right? The MCU suits are designed is just, they just level up. Like they take the basic structure of something from the comics and they really dive in and figure out how would this work in the real world, and how can we make this more tactical and more useful and unique while looking cool and still looking like a superhero.
Right. Yeah. And I think you nailed it right on the head. And even like, even watching Moon Knight here recently, I am just like blown away by like, not only they like, if they were to take the costume from the comic, make it real life accurate, and then embellish it on top of it, and it looks so good on camera. Like, I'm just really blown away. And Moon Knight's not even like a really popular MCU character or just Marvel character at all. Like, that was like one of those books that, for a long time was one of those like third or fourth tier comics that like guys who were brand new to writing comics would get to cut their teeth on that book before they could move up the ranks and, eventually hit the top pinnacle of like, X-Men or Spider-Man or Avengers or something like that. But yeah, you nailed it. And I love every single character we see like these really cool like evolution of their costumes over the course of the movies. I mean, probably nobody as much as Iron Man, because that's like technological on top of it. Like when I was just laughing, it was just like a couple days ago, I watched the first Iron Man for the first time in a long time. And I was just like, oh, you remember how like boxy and like machinery it was? Yeah. Versus his like nanite suit that he has in, Infinity War and Endgame. And it's just like, it's so much fun to see.
Yeah, from him having to be in the garage and having everything be put on him to him just and then there it goes.
I think it was one of the best lines in that movie where he looks at Pepper and says, okay, face it, this is not the worst thing you've caught me doing, which is,
yeah, exactly.
Which has been a running joke between me and my wife, like forever. Like every once in a while, like she'll come into the garage and I'm messing around with something that's not working and I'm mad, like the lawnmower won't start. And I just look over my shoulder and say that. And it releases the tension 100%. So I saw on your Instagram as we sort of like, go through. I thought it was really cool. Obviously, you have the variations, the Bucky rescue suit. That's what we
Mhm.
established. Yeah, the stealth suit, the classic one, the bony suit.
Yeah, the Boeing
I,
suit battle in New York.
I can't let that one go.
Oh, and happy anniversary to Avengers 1. His
Yes,
anniversary.
gosh,
New York was attacked on May 4th of all days.
yes. I always thought it was funny. I always wonder if they intended to drop that movie on like International Star Wars Day, or it just happened to happen where it's
It
like,
just happened to happen. Yeah.
yeah, that, yeah, God, has it really been that long? That is
It,
the bizarre thing about those Phase Ones movies. You go back and watch them, you're blown away by how young some of them were. Like
mhm.
even like Robert Downey Jr. Like, oh my God, I forgot like how young he was when all this started, or how he looked. And
Right.
I swear Chris Evans is immortal. He's like a vampire, right? Like that guy doesn't look like he's aged a bit in that course of time. Um,
If he ever does age, it is like fine wine.
right. We all, well, specimen. So
Exactly.
that is really cool. But other than Captain America, I've seen, you did a couple of variations of Spider-Man. I love, like, the classic Spider-Man, the Ben Riley one, which I think is really cool and doesn't get enough praise in the world.
Thank you.
I might add. Also the because we had talked about this one, I was semi confusing this other one you did with Silk Spider, but it is
Yeah.
not Silk Spider I'm talking.
Correct. It is not.
So I'll let you run through that story.
Are you sure? I think you've heard it before.
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, so Silk Suit has the pullover red mask up top, which I think is cool. She, had it down pat before the pandemic. She knew before all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that suit is a funny story. I actually had ordered the Ben Riley, the Scarlet Spider suit, and the Peter B. Parker suit, which I have on and also on my Instagram. And the package kind of felt a little heavy. So I opened it and I was like, there is a black and white suit in here. So I emailed the company where I ordered my suits from and I said, hey guys, I only ordered 2 suits and they gave me 3. If you want to give me the person's address it belongs to, I don't mind sending it to them if it's in the US. And they were like, no, that's okay. We already caught our mistake. We've already made them their suit and sent it their way. Go ahead and keep it. And I was like, wow, okay. So I kind of just held it up to myself and it looked quite long. And I'm not a tall person. I'm average height. I'm 5'4". So my photographer friends just do a good job at making me look tall, because when people stand next to me, they're always, about this height and they're like, oh, I thought you were the same height as I was. But yeah, so I put it on and it actually fits really well. And it's a really cool looking suit. I found out from other cosplayers, because I posted it on my story and said, hey, does anybody know like if this is an official suit or was it like a custom made one? And people had told me that it's called the Superior Spider suit. So it
Superior
is.
Spider suit.
Yeah, so it definitely has a name. There's so many variants of spider suits out there, but I'm glad somebody was able to like nail it down and give me the official name for it.
That is awesome. The yeah, that's one of the fun things about Spider-Man is they've had so much fun playing with the alternate dimension Spider-Man, and the Spider-Verse, right. And you could bring in Kara. I mean, I think they had a Doctor Strange Spider-Man once where Peter Parker had become Sorcerer Supreme, and they could just go on and on with that forever. It's so much fun, which is great for cosplay because you can just like make up a Spider-Man. Like,
yeah, essentially. I know a lot of people who do their they do a lot of custom suits and they have like their own idea of what their Spider-Man is, so that's cool too. And I remember there was the art tag when Spider-Verse actually came out, the animated movie, and it said like the hashtag was my Spider Sona, and then everybody would do their self if they were Spider-Man, which was a really cool trend to follow and like just see everybody's different variations. And I hope it starts again when the second movie comes out.
Yeah, the I love that movie so much, and I loved the Spider-Man in that movie who came over, was mentoring Miles Morales, because I don't think I had ever related to a Spider-Man better until I saw that one. Now
Yeah,
being in my
you're good old
40s.
Peter B.
Yeah, now I'm like, oh, bro, I feel you. Like I feel you 100%, man. You know.
Yeah, every time he says his back hurts or he tries to crack it, it's me.
Yeah, 100%. That was the best thing about No Way Home. They're like, oh, my back, and I'm like, oh, bro, I'm feeling you.
Yeah, I'm so
100%.
glad they included that. And it's always the meme too, like the Toby meme of just him being like, my back.
Yeah.
So it was accurate. Like it would have been a crime for them to not put it in that movie.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I think you ought to just call that white suit Spider Britt. Like that should just be
Spider
like
Britt.
the name of it. It should, everybody in the cosplay community should know that's what it's known as.
That's what it's known.
What
There is, I think, a version of Spider-Man with the Union Jack on it, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. I remember seeing that one time, and there have been so many.
Mm-hmm.
They did a what if issue. I remember one because what if was like an ongoing comic for a long time, which is always fun because they could do these like little one shots of just like and I remember one they did where it played with the what if right after Ben Parker got killed, Wolverine like found Peter Parker over his uncle's dead body.
Oh, okay.
And decides to take him in and take Peter Parker under his wing.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then it carries the storyline throughout this comic over the course of like several decades. Like he's still Spider-Man, but there's very much a slightly darker edge to him. Slightly merciless bent. I mean, he's still Peter Parker at his core. He's not like Wolverine where he's just gonna like, I'm just gonna cut people up because I'm bored. Snick. I could definitely see that. So the question I have is because I've seen like several of these like cosplays that you've done, and they all look fantastic, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm a huge fan. I mean, that's the whole reason why I reached out to you.
I really appreciate that.
Oh, definitely. What all ideas do you got next? Like, what do you want to do next?
Well, I actually have another captain in mind. Obviously I've already done Captain Carter, the what if Captain Carter. And, I've had this other suit. It's like the same style as a Spider-Man suit. So it's a Zentai suit. It's like just a one zip up kind of thing. I haven't read the entire run of it yet, but it is the Dark Captain Marvel suit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I actually have it over there on my bed. I was showing it to somebody earlier. I've actually had the suit for, I want to say over a year. I haven't done anything with it yet because I kept trying to figure out if I wanted to do the helmet look with it or not. I don't know if you've ever seen that Dark Captain Marvel look before.
No,
I should have had it prepared to show you.
Come on, Britt. We've had a dry run of this already. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, I know. You think I learned. So the suit essentially is just black and red. Okay. It has like the one that I have has little hexagonal patterns on it. And it has the Captain Marvel star really large in red outline.
Okay.
And this Dark Captain Marvel is a little different. She's got this really cool makeup. So she has like a lot of black makeup here and it's kind of shattered. And she has makeup going from her lip down to her chin. And on one of the covers, she essentially defeated every single one of the Avengers. And in one of the covers, she's like holding Thor by the cape while he's kind of passed out, and it's a wraparound comic. So like everybody else is just like out on the comic cover. So that's kind of something I have got in the works for a while. Oh no, did you find it?
Whoa.
You found it.
That is wicked. And you've been sitting on this a year?
I have, yeah. Over a year.
That is so badass. Wow. Yeah, she could. She's powerful enough. She could totally. She was kind of like the they had to bring her in Endgame the way they did, kind of the same way they had to wait to bring Superman in Justice League because I was watching Justice League the other day, which I think gets a lot of hate. It's a good movie, especially if you watch the Snyder cut. I mean, if you're going to devote 4 hours of your life, but it occurs to me that like, yeah, you have to find a way for Captain America, Superman to be occupied during that, because if you don't and none of the other Justice League members are there and it's just Superman, it's a mildly busy afternoon for him.
That's true.
In reality,
Right.
And you were kind of that way with Captain Marvel, because if she's there, like, as soon as Thanos appears with all of his forces, she's like, okay, I'll be right back. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I'm really excited to see that one. That is, I'd never seen that one before. And I had been a fan of Captain Marvel for a long time. I remember I was so glad that they kind of did like a redo with her character. Because for a long time she was Miss Marvel and was just like black leotard, and yeah, she was super powerful, but it was like, comics wise, she was mainly just this blonde bimbo who was there to be, busty and beat up bad guys and then fly away. But
I think that kind of came with the times.
yeah,
Just, in the way female characters were being drawn when they were introduced. But, just kind of like how we talked about how Marvel's done a good job of like translating from comics to real life. I think the comic industry and like artists have done a really good job of evolving with the times and making suits look more tactical and, something that would actually be used and worn in real life.
Right.
So, I'm pretty sure a lot of people can appreciate that. I know I do personally. Like, I absolutely adored Yelena's suit in the Black Widow movie and in Hawkeye.
Yeah.
I'm all for anything tactical. I just think it looks so cool. It makes you feel cool, and it's practical too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's, comic books, especially in the 80s and in the 90s, they were marketed to teenage men, teenage guys.
Right.
I mean, that was their demographic. So that's what, that's what they marketed towards. Like, and this wasn't, by the way, folks, like, if you don't read comics or didn't read comics, like, this wasn't just a Marvel thing. Like, DC did this, Image Comic did this. I mean, go pick up an 80s or 90s comics of like Supergirl and Wonder Woman and look at the way they were drawn then versus the way they're drawn now. Mm-hmm. Part of it's a smart marketing strategy. Like, hey, why don't we make this palatable to more people? Then we have more customers. But I also think a big part of it is just changing with the times, which is great, which is fantastic. I think it was definitely well deserved.
Yeah, and I love that too. Like I said, with changing with the times, and not to sound like Thanos, but I mean, change is inevitable. Yeah. And you always hope that change is going to go in a good direction. So especially for comics, like women in comics and just the characters in general, it's nice, especially with the MCU too. It's nice to see that, you can still be a woman superhero, be treated and look like a superhero, just like the men do. You don't have to have, a very busty suit or, what have you. And it has evolved in the movies too. And you can see it. If you look at Black Widow's suit from A1 and you look at her in her movie, it's definitely changed. And there's nothing saying that there's anything wrong with it. But like I said, it's more practical. It's tactical. You look like a badass and everybody knows that you're going to get the job done.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody's going to question you. You're going to get the same amount of respect as any other male superhero out there.
Right. Well, that was just like, and that would always occur to me, in the past when you'd watch, like, whoever the heroes are, they're going into the battle and, the male character has the full body armor and the weapons and the pouches and all the cool stuff. And the woman's just wearing a sports bra, like, just tactically speaking, like, you're going to fight a dragon, right? Like, maybe something to protect you would be a good idea. That's been a running gag in, like, especially like the fantasy side of it, like D&D stuff about, especially those games that came out back then about how if you were playing as a male character and you'd upgrade your armor, it was this big full body metal armor. And if you were a female character, you got a shinier metal bra. And it's like,
oh, no.
Like, what good does that do? Okay. So Dark Captain Marvel, that I'm not going to stop thinking about that now. Like, I'm just trying to picture that cosplay wise, and it sounds absolutely amazing. What else you got on the table? What else are you thinking about?
You really wanted me to talk about the other thing, didn't you?
Yes, we have to.
Okay. It's still here from the other mention. So everybody saw the the Thor Love and Thunder trailer. Nobody's perfect. I slipped earlier and I can't talk apparently. So I have a Jane Foster in the works. The other wing is on the floor because I dropped it. But yeah, I had this 3D printed by a fine person named Matt. I can go ahead and send you their Instagram later if you're interested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It came out perfect. It should do, you know what? I will just humor myself because I kind of want to. They made it spot on.
Oh, wow.
I just need to add a little bit of foam and the back piece isn't on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's my first ever 3D printed thing that actually fits my big head. So I'm very, very, and there went the other wing. Very, very happy about it. I met up with them not too long ago. I think it was Friday, Saturday, one of those days. Had a really good conversation with them, and they were excited for me, and I'm excited as well. I'm eventually going to enlist the help of Danny, CTK Creations, you know him, to help me figure out how to sand it. And I was talking to Frank about it. He said I should use like a 200 grit sandpaper. So I'm really excited to work on it. Right now I have not too much energy to work on it, to be honest, but I'm going to be getting on it sooner than later. And I plan on the rest of the suit being foam. So gonna enlist another Iron Squad person, Kiara. She said she would give me advice if I needed anything because she is a master foam smith. At least to me, I think she is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm excited. So that's in the works. The Dark Captain Marvel is in the works. That might be a little bit sooner than later, the Dark Captain Marvel. So we'll see.
Yes, both of those are just sound. Outside of that, even ones you don't have any concrete plans. Do you have any just like nebulous, like, oh, it'd be cool to do that character one day, or man, maybe someday I'll get to that one. Do you have any of those kicking around up there?
Well, I've been wanting to not separate myself from any sort of Captain America, anything, but I wanted to branch out and do a lot more. So there's two that I really want to do. One is anime related. I know a lot of people have probably heard of Demon Slayer. The second season just finished airing, I think a month or two ago, if I'm correct. I wanted to do a Lord Tengen gender bent.
Okay.
He has these really big double blades that he carries, and I think it's so cool. Frank actually did a whole build on that, and I'm always trying to convince him to bring them over so I can play with them and shoot in them. I've been wanting to do that. And another one would probably be Jyn Erso. Happy May the 4th be with you.
Yes.
By the way. She's on my shirt, so I'm on brand today.
I don't have a Jyn Erso shirt, but I am wearing.
You've got Emily's shirt on.
Yeah,
awesome.
I got Emily's shirt on.
Yes.
Which it's cool that she made these, proud 3D printer dad and mom shirts. She doesn't have any kids.
You know what? I don't have any kids, and I don't even do 3D printing, and I still want to buy the shirt.
I would absolutely.
I'm specifically going to buy the dad shirt because it's hilarious.
Then I have to go get the mom shirt. That's just
there you go.
Speaking of Emily, I have to know because this is I think probably the most serious question I will ask anybody on the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, when it comes to having to be at places like WonderCon with the Iron Idiots, was this a bet you lost? Is this court ordered public service? Is it part of are you their therapist? I mean
okay, so listen, I did not lose a bet because every time I'm around those guys and gals, I feel like I won the lottery, honestly. They're the best people around. They're some of the best people I've met in the cosplay community. They're actually, you know what? I'm going to be honest. Everybody I've met in the cosplay community is the best at what they do and best at being exactly who they are. Everybody's been so welcoming and accepting, and it's just great to be able to bond over Marvel or Star Wars. Mainly right now for me, obviously, it's Marvel, and I'm just super grateful for that. And every member of the Iron Idiots, I love you so much. I know you will watch this because you support me and I support you guys. But yeah, I feel like $1 million when I'm with them. It's so fun. WonderCon was a blast, and I did not mind being their handler. It was very fun.
What even handler? Did they have ankle bracelets on?
Yeah, I basically have to like tie them together
Oh
with
yeah.
rope, make sure they don't lose each other because
Right.
they're just like a sea of Iron Man people, you know. No,
That-
yeah. So I had been talking to them, and they had, I think their first con that they all went to together in full Iron Man suits was Silicon Valley.
Mhm.
And they had mentioned before, just kind of when we were talking and hanging out, that they didn't really get a lot of like photos with each other because it's hard because, you know, since they're in their 3D printed gloves, it's obviously not going to work with a phone. So I made sure to grab Emily's phone. Me and Jonathan, her husband, were really good at getting like capturing memories, whether it's just like them walking around or them talking to each other or doing silly little dances. You know, I just wanted to make sure they had the memories because it's not often that they're all together in the same place.
Mhm.
So I was like, oh, give me your phone. Or I was like, Jonathan, hand me your phone so I could get a picture of you and Emily too. And, you know, I'm just trying to make sure that everybody, while experiencing the core memories, they also have something to look back on.
Mhm.
And I was in my Carter suit, so very much on brand for Cap. Like I have the belt with all the little pockets. I carry band-aids in there, first aid, sanitizer, Q-tips, extra
Medications.
rubber bands. I'm sorry?
Medications.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
everybody's medications, you know. And I actually fit some glue in my pocket in case they needed to be glued together if anything popped off or cracked or something. Um, but yeah, it's just checking to make sure they're okay. Like, hey, do you need water? Or like, are you good? And I'm pretty sure you watched their podcast. A lot of it, it's really hard for them to walk like 5 feet without getting bombarded by people. And especially when we were inside the convention for a little while, just kind of walking around and checking things out. I did my best to make sure. I was like, hey, do you guys, I'd asked them previously, like, hey, do you guys mind, like, even if you're mid conversation, like, if I can get your attention somehow, because the little kids are just standing there with their mouths open, you know. And
Yeah.
so, you know, I do my best. It was usually around their elbow area. I just kind of give them like a little scratch, and they would turn around and be like, hey, this little kid dressed as Batman really wants to take a picture with you.
Mhm.
And they would completely stop what they were doing, turn around, take a picture. And, you know, it's as much fun for them. Like, that's what they love to do. So as much as fun as it is for the little child or, you know, the teenager that's taking a photo with them, they love it too. So you know, they're just a really great group of people, super humble, and you know, they're regular people like us, a bunch of
Mhm.
nerds who love to do play dress up as adults, you know,
Yeah.
and
That
they
was
do it well. They've honed
yeah.
their craft well.
Right. That was WonderCon was so much fun just getting to like vicariously live through everybody's Instagram. Like
Oh yeah,
seeing all the stuff that was getting posted, like, oh my God, it just looked like so much fun. Looked like everybody had an absolute blast. It
it was
looks
one of the best cons had ever been to in my life, and I'd only been to two cons previously. I went to San Diego Comic Con special edition, and I was really thankful to be invited to that as well from somebody who was on a panel. So thank you. You know who you are. And then I was also invited by another friend to go to LA Comic Con, and they also know who they are. So I appreciate that. It's also the same person who brought me to Hawkeye. I'll actually give him a shout out. It's Chief Geek Photography. His name's Brandon. Very, very kind soul. Love him to death. So yeah, he was like, hey, what are you doing? Are you gonna end up coming out to LA Comic Con? I was like, oh, maybe not this go. And he was like, well, oh, come on, I got an extra badge for you. And I was like, really? And he said, yeah, go ahead and come over. But WonderCon, I mean, you know, although I'm very grateful for having been to the other two and experienced San Diego for the first time and LA for the first time, WonderCon was just out of this world. You know, it's so cosplayer friendly and everything's in such like a small area. When everybody's outside, you just get to hang out. It's always positive vibes. You know, everybody's just fooling around. And like I said, we're all essentially adults who like to play dress up, whether it's MCU, DC, anime, Disney characters. It's just, it was a really good con. And I'm glad they all very much enjoyed themselves too.
hmm Yeah, that was how did you happen to meet them?
Okay, so back to it was actually premieres. I had gotten invited by a different Brandon, goes by the name of Jax on Instagram. He had contacted me and he was like, hey, so are you busy on this date? And I was like, I don't think so. Why? And he goes, well, would you like to go to the Eternals premiere with me? And I said, are you serious? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, no, but you're serious. And he's like, yeah, of course I'm serious. And I was like, yes, I would love to go. And Chief Geek Photography Brandon number 2 or B or whatever you want to call him. We had chatted over Instagram before, and he totally took me under his wing, introduced me to all the cosplayers in line that I had already been following on Instagram. And he was like, hey, this is Captain Britt. I'm pretty sure you've seen some of the videos I repost. He's very loud at the premieres, very boisterous, and we all love him for that. So I was able to finally meet people in person for the first time. And on my way there, I get a message from Frank. And we had chatted, here and there, and he's had been kind enough to respond to my messages, even though we both know I've never 3D printed anything in my life. I would just say like, hey, dude, this is a great looking suit. Or I would just ask him kind of like random questions. He was always kind enough to respond. And, I'd put something on my story like, oh my gosh, I'm leaving in 30 minutes. And he just hit me up and he was like, oh, where are you going? And I was like, why? And he's like, because I may be going there too. And I was like, are you going to Eternals? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, no way. So that's officially how we met. And he introduced me to Emily and Kiara and Danny. And we hung out after the movie and it was great. And we all just kind of clicked. It was good vibes all around. And the rest is kind of history.
So far, I feel like there's so many more hijinks left to come.
Oh, definitely. Of course there is. Many, many more.
Aside from the Doctor Strange premiere, you had something you did a couple days before that also got you sunburnt. It was a charity event. What was that?
That was the Ronald McDonald charity event at the Rose Bowl over there in Pasadena. That was really cool. It's always really rewarding getting to go to those things. I'm going to be fully transparent. I got my application got accepted for the West Coast Avengers to be a part of that charity group. I think it was around late November, early December. So this was my second charity event. The first one was, I drove about 2 hours away to where my friend Brandon Chief Geek lives. And I went to a special needs prom that was for Kids Can Cosplay. I'm a part of a 2 different charities. And that was very nice and super heartwarming. It was a really good experience. Backtracking to what we were talking about at the Rose Bowl, that was also very good. It was cool to cheer people on. I believe the Pasadena Fire Department was there too, and they all wanted to get a picture with us, which was great. We had a giant Hulkbuster suit out there that one of the members had made, and he didn't get in it that day, but it is fully functional.
Wow.
And it's just really cool. You have little kids run up to you, or little boys, little girls, whoever, and it's just really cool to walk around in the suit and, they see you for who you are. You are that character, and they just light up when they see you. And there's really not a better feeling than that. Mm-hmm. It's very rewarding. And I was lucky enough to, I'm lucky enough to be a part of it, and I can't wait to do more.
Mm-hmm. I think that, it sounds very corny, but I think it's 100% true when you look at it from the mind of a child who can see a character that they admire and look up to on screen, whether it's on their iPad or on a TV or in the movie theater. They can admire this character, really like this character, look up to this character. But I think it becomes a little bit more tactile when they see somebody cosplaying it. Like right. it may, like they obviously deep down, they know that this person is not really Iron Man or this person is not really Batman. But I feel like it reinforces it a little bit more.
Yeah, it's more tangible because you were right there with them in that moment.
Yeah, that is such an inspiring thing. That is so great. I wish we'd had that kind of stuff when I was a kid, but I'm happy for, kids today who can experience that kind of thing and have that kind of interaction.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're getting we're getting up against the clock of the second recording of the Captain Britt episode of the podcast. Now I'm going to put you on the hot seat. Is there anything you want to say on the way out?
Hopefully I will say this a lot more eloquently than the first time. Just kind of backtracking how we were talking about Captain America and politics. The world currently is a scary place for many, many marginalized communities, and it's unfair, but what I've taken from this is, you've got to try your best to be your own hero and to do what you can in your community to make the world a better place. You know, we want to do our best to leave the world in a better state than it was left to us. And, you know, I know a lot of people kind of feel like, well, you know, these things may not affect me, that, you know, it doesn't apply to me. But you know what it does? It could apply to your neighbor. It could apply to your doctor, your Starbucks barista, you know, anything you can do to leave the world a better place than it was before you came in it, do it. You know, it's worth it. Even if you change one person's life, that's how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
If I've done nothing else in this life but helped one person, then I will have lived a good life. And, you know, in order to do that, you just have to keep that spark of hope alive.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I firmly believe that, you know, you don't need a super soldier serum, or you have to defeat Thanos to be a hero. You know, sometimes just helping one random person in one moment, that can mean the absolute world to that person.
Mm-hmm.
And you never know. And that's why I love all this stuff. That's the reason why I love nerd stuff. I mean, it's obviously because I like to see cool things and I like to see stuff blow up pretty, and all that's fun.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's just like you were talking about with Jen Urso, and like the whole message of hope, and it representing hope and something bigger and something better that we can all aspire to be a part of. And yeah, if there's one thing that I hope people take away from it's exactly that.
Right. I mean, hope, no matter how small it is, you know, it's still powerful. It doesn't have to be a raging volcano or a flame of hope. You know, it could be a small spark, but, you know, it could be enough to keep somebody going, even if, you know, they're at that moment where they're just, you know, feel so defeated. If you just have that spark of hope, you can take the next step. You know, you can do this all day.
Yep. And yes, I love that line so very much. Well, I'm gonna let you go. I want to thank you so much for doing the podcast, and I want to thank you so much more for doing the podcast.
Of course, yeah.
Right.
I was determined.
You and me both. So thank you so much. I'm gonna let you get out of here, but I guarantee you'll be hearing from me in the future.
Awesome. Sounds great. If you ever want to do it a third time, you let me know.
You got it. All right.
All right. Thank you so much. It was a real honor. Appreciate you.
Thank you. All right. So that was the episode with Brittany, AKA Captain Britt. Hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun making that one. She's such a fun person to talk to, and especially talking about the cosplay world, everything nerdy. It's really great. I cannot thank her enough for everything that she did so that we could actually get this episode done and recorded. It's truly appreciated. Outside of that, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you, liking, subscribing, all the stuff that you do. And on the way out, I just want to say I love all of you. Hope you take care of each other, and we'll talk to you next time.